Mm, holy drugged out supermarket sweep, Batman! Tiki here, and I have been watching through all of Batman the Animated Series and a select curated bunch of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited episodes featuring Batman for the first time. And now, folks, I'm pretty sure we're over halfway through the first season of Batman Beyond, and I'm getting the full story. Dragon, tell them why we're here.
Well, you see, folks, long ago, I made a vow to educate Tiki in the ways of Batman the Animated Series, serving as his spirit guide to Gotham in a way, but that was the past. And we must now enter the Batman's future.
And tonight we're talking about season 1, episode 10, Spellbound. And yeah, Dragon, we're over halfway through at this point. I need to prepare my finances because I need to buy the second season soon. We only got 3 left.
Tiki, you do realize you currently have HBO Max, right?
No, I literally didn't realize that until you said it.
Oh, this is what I'm working with, folks.
Yeah, that's what you're working with. All right. Well, hey, that's what streaming services are for. Now I don't have to buy the second season. All right. Anyways, Dragon, I really like this episode. Again, I really do. This is a really solid bunch of episodes that we've gotten ourselves into. I don't necessarily think it's like my favorite episode ever, like as far as, the thematic stuff goes. But I will say, I think this villain's gimmick has led to some of the most creative visuals and animation that we have seen so far. Like, I really felt the animators just having a blast with some of the psychedelic stuff going on in this episode. And that was really what was kind of carrying me through it. So all in all, probably not the strongest episode, as far as the characterization stuff. But I do really like, and we have Lucas Green in the comments says this is Terry's discount Scarecrow. Absolutely, yeah. And I like it. I honestly think some of the visuals in this episode kind of eclipse a lot of the Scarecrow stuff that we got in Batman the Animated Series, dare I say. Dragon, especially the giant insect stuff. I'm going to have stuff to say about the giant insect wedding, Dragon. Just you wait.
Yeah, move over HBO with the red wedding. We're talking the bug wedding.
Oh my god. Dragon, that, man. That kind of like unleashed the same sort of like fear that the poison ivy Venus flytraps unleashed. I do not like giant insects.
Right.
Anyway, so Dragon, yeah, some context here would be nice.
Yeah, so this was directed by the great Butch Lukic, who just to kind of add some parallels here, he was again he was a board artist on Batman the Animated Series, and he kind of graduated to director when he got to the new Batman Adventures. But on Batman the Animated Series, he boarded one of the Scarecrow episodes, not the original one. He boarded, I believe, the second one, Fear of Victory. I forget if that I think that came before In Darkness Dwells. I can't fully recall. If it, I'm pretty sure it did. Anyway, point he boarded one of the 3 original Scarecrow episodes. The one where everyone, we saw Robin kind of getting over his fears when they were trying to stop Scarecrow from betting on football, essentially. Let's see. So then there was the also just given how this episode ends, he boarded the proper introduction of Batgirl, Shadow of the Bat, the 2-parter.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so he directed Chemistry, which does get kind of has a cute like little kind of subtle reference in this episode to Chemistry. So that was him as well. Okay, so the writer on this was Bob Goodman, who essentially is kind of the again, he was the guy who, huge fan of the Dark Knight Returns, and he was the guy tasked with writing Legends of the Dark Knight, which, of course, was the first time they tackled Frank Miller Batman, which was a Batman of the future, which obviously, he's one of the top of the pile writers for Batman Beyond. So, Bob Goodman, you're going to see his name pop up a lot.
Cool.
He also did a Blackout from this season, which I love, one of my favorites from Batman Beyond, the first Ink episode.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, studio on this Coco, a little splish of Dong Yang, but again, water is wet. You get it. So, not a whole lot of background here. Just the main thing to tell you is that something very interesting happened on this episode. So, as Lucas Green alluded to, this was kind of them filling, as I've mentioned ad nauseum here. They did not want to just do duplicates of or continuations of all the Batman villains. Really, only 4 exceptions there. Period through the whole duration of the series. And they basically were trying to do archetypes to the original villains when they could, but obviously with a more original and kind of different twist. So there's this is kind of their take on Scarecrow. A little bit of Scarecrow with a dash of the Mad Hatters, given the technological kind of side of it, which Batman the Animated Series did that for their slant on the Mad Hatter and his mind control tech. So there's a little bit. Obviously, it's Scarecrow's the mind thing, the POV, and all that sort of stuff. So it's basically the Scarecrow of the future, but not with the fear gimmick. But when they were doing this, something crazy and serendipitous happened you wouldn't believe if I told you, but I'm going to tell you, so you're going to have to do your best to believe me. All right, so what happened is they're working on this episode. Bob Goodman, he crafted the episode, and originally, I think he was, again, being in the first season, there's a lot of development on, like, how the heck are we going to do this show in the future when there's no development period. It's like, guys, you got the green light. No time for working up a Bible and coming up with all these guys in advance. You got to do it on the fly, like you're working week to week, essentially.
Uh-huh.
So what they did was he came up with a magician-themed villain gimmick. Basically, you would have had... I'm imagining, given the aesthetic of Batman Beyond, he would have looked like Tuxedo Mask from Sailor Moon. Essentially an old-school magician with top hat and probably a mask and a cape and stuff. So essentially, probably something very close to Tuxedo Mask from Sailor Moon. And he would have been the bad guy. And the script was different to reflect this, and but again, essentially the same gimmick in which you have a guy who is going around, basically probably a dapper-looking gentleman walking up to people instead of the cool, like, heady, hypnotic design that we have before us here. So roughly same story. Bruce Timm looked at this and he wasn't crazy about it, reportedly. So he did what he does best. Bruce Timm, he loves the design. He and his buddy Glenn, the hero of Batman Beyond, he and Glenny Boy, they were designing, because that's the thing about Batman Beyond, essentially in that first season, they basically designed the heck out of things and filing the best drawings away, and they would pull out. And that's how we got Shriek a couple episodes ago. Shriek
I'm going to tell you, Dragon, there's one design at the very beginning of this episode that just really, really just makes my OCD go nuts. But we'll get into that shortly.
Yeah. So it's so crazy, Tiki. This is, I think, what happens. Anyway, so they make this design, and I don't even know how true this story is. I got to be honest, because it sounds so suspect. This can't possibly be true. If it didn't happen before on something else, I would say it's impossible. So what happens? So they have a design, looks a lot better. It's the Spellbinder design you see before you right now, and it only happened one other time when they were working on Legends of the Dark Knight, which I mentioned, which had Butch Lukic which had Bob Goodman write. They realized after the episode was done, essentially, after they're too far in the process that to change anything, or really not that they would have changed anything, but they basically, by complete serendipity, they realized Spellbinder was an existing character.
Oh, really?
I mean, that's the thing. So there was an obscure Batman villain named Spellbinder, whose name is Billings. At least if things is Delbert Billings, so not Ira Billings, but Delbert Billings. So assuming this is from the I guess this is from kind of he's a very deep pull from the 60s, at least the aesthetic. I forget if this specific version of him was from the 60s. Because Spellbinder, there's 3 different takes on Spellbinder, which is why I imagine the name Spellbinder was in the guys' minds when they're working on this. But yeah, so as I mentioned way back during the New Batman Adventures, Legends of the Dark Knight, they completely forgot about the framing device, that there was a Batman comic written by Frank Robbins that basically had kids talking about, no, but Batman looks like this. No, Batman looks like the whole Rashomon thing with the kids.
Uh-huh.
So that happened to him back then. So here was oh my God, they completely forgot that there was a Batman villain named Spellbinder who had kind of a hypnotic looking gimmick and everything. So they made a even cooler futurized version of Spellbinder by complete accident. And his last name was Billings, just like the real guy. Crazy, right?
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
Well, again, just saying, it's kind of a stranger than fiction moment. So, I mean, ultimately, retroactively, they can now say, we did an update, we did a deep pull way back in Batman, we made an awesome villain out of it. So, but again, completely by accident.
Right on.
That's it. Let's do it.
All right. Lucas Green says Spellbinder style seems simple, but I feel once his illusion kicks in and you stare at his hypnotic lines and spiral, it further takes the victim into the warped reality. Yeah, I agree. The way incorporating his suit into his gimmick. For sure. Okay. So let's just get into it. Okay, so Dragon, the design I was talking about, we have this, I don't know what is bothering me more about this girl's design. The fact that she is dressed like just hazardously little clothes on, especially for like being in the middle of the night with a cold chill and everything. That bothers me. And then also the hairbrush sticking out of her pants that's clearly put in there just so she could have something to emulate the machete later on. Mm-hmm. That really bothers me. So I don't know, Dragon. I really like this episode, but this is not starting out on the right foot as far as like the character design goes.
Okay, well, for starters, just to remind you, we have seen this girl before and dressed exactly like this before, though, Tiki.
With the hairbrush and everything?
Okay, not the hairbrush was literally
okay, the hairbrush, I guess, is probably what was really sticking out to me, Dragon.
Literally. No, I agree. Yes. I admit you, I completely forgot. It took me the rewatch for the note-taking process to realize. I remember, like, yeah, is there something like she had like a phone or something behind her? And I realized
it's weird. It's like, yeah, it's just like I mean, if it was a phone, that would be one thing because that is something that teenagers do put in their back pockets. Yeah. But just a hairbrush, and it's not even in her back pocket. It's just literally just sticking out of her pants.
Yeah, well, her skirt, but yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. So Chelsea, she's walking home after her date. We have a nice aesthetic with the fog and the lighting and everything. It looks really good. But yeah, very oddly, you could. The problem is, for some reason they felt the need to set up the hairbrush way earlier than they probably should have. Like she could just pick up like the hairbrush when she's at home or something like.
Right.
So yeah, so she has the hairbrush.
Or maybe, I don't know, have a purse?
I'm sorry, what?
Would that have really been that much more complicated to animate as opposed to a literal hairbrush sticking out of her skirt?
Would what have been more complicated?
Just her having a purse that she pulls the hairbrush out of?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. It just feels, honestly, you know what it feels like? It feels like almost that gag from El Dorado. It's the whole, like, where was she keeping them? That sort of thing. Like, it's the fact that when you have the Bruce Timm design, of course, Bruce Timm, very known, thanks to Lynn Naylor, he's known for drawing very attractive females. And in doing so, when Bruce Timm designs in the way he does, there's very little pocket room. So I think that was just the problem of like, well, she's going to need to swing something around, and we've drawn her so
right,
scantily.
So let's talk about this gimmick because I really like it, and I really think it's like an interesting subversion of the classic fear toxic gimmick. What I like about it is that it's very clearly dangerous, but outside of a couple of instances, it's not like overtly malicious.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's something like it's almost like the Freddy Krueger logic, where Freddy Krueger is wearing the green and red pattern on his shirt because it's psychologically designed to be irritating to the eyes. Because you have to focus. It's like the 3D thing. You're focusing on the pattern. So essentially, the idea here is kind of that built-in already has like a hypnotic look to it with the face, but beyond that is just something that looks kind of like I like that it's indicative of the early Scarecrow design. Where the early Scarecrow design literally is just a man who looks like a Scarecrow, which is not scary, yet he is really scary. And a lot of people everyone always.
Well, I mean, look at the Nolan Scarecrow. It's literally just a burlap sack, and it's scary as hell.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone always complains about the Scarecrow design, but they always highlight how great the third design was. And yes, the third design is great, but you know what? I like the juxtaposition that it was a guy who's really not scary looking, who has the ability to be terrifying.
For sure.
Like, to me, I wish they always kind of fused the design ideas. I wish, like, when he gassed people, then he would look scary. I think that would have been great, but, character models.
Well, this guy, the Spellbinder, I really do like how once the psychological effects kick in, he more so kind of, like, blends into the background. He kind of becomes, like, a silhouette almost, kind of leading people.
Well, that's the thing. There's this heady effect where he kind of, in the first a thing he kind of camouflages himself, but you're thinking
Uh-huh.
that's more of like it's unclear. I don't know. They don't say for certain if his suit can camouflage or not. He does kind of disappear in one
The way
scene.
I read it was that it was an effect of what he was projecting.
That's the thing. I think it's that, but then again, later on, Terry sees him kind of disappear into the crowd. So that second time, it's a
True,
little more.
true.
So it's hard for me to say because if he actually could camouflage, why wouldn't he do that in the fight with Batman? But then they both
But
can
you know what? I
camouflage.
actually like the ambiguity of how the effect actually works. I don't mind not having it completely spelled out for
Yeah,
us, honestly.
one could say it messes with the mind's eye.
Exactly. Okay, Lucas Stream says Scarecrow's fear toxin was obviously illusions of someone's fear, whereas this is more of someone's monumental pleasure at times.
That's the thing. That's the important thing here. This guy's not specifically operating in fears or anything. He's basically that's the interesting thing too.
Look at the
it's kind of,
supermarket sweep. That is probably my favorite fantasy of the whole episode.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
why I put it as my holy.
So kind of like Shriek to a degree. Remember, Shriek is kind of an update. Again, with the Spider-Man comparison, Shriek is kind of like an update of Mysterio in terms of a guy who's not a bad guy. He wasn't an effects guy, but he was a sound effects guy. You know?
He's a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy.
Sure. You see my point, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have like an effects guy. So here you have a guy who kind of like Mysterio, he creates an illusion, an optical illusion. He does it through kind of this kind of technological means. And kind of like the Mad Hatter, again, he's creating kind of a wonderland of fantasy. So he's kind of like, there's kind of like, I like how we're kind of taking a few gimmicks of Batman villains and putting them into this guy.
I feel like if this was being done today, it would absolutely be some sort of VR technology.
Well, for sure, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And also the, and also, again, it's kind of like I just love how we kind of lucked into. This is very consistent with who the Spellbinder character was from the comics too. He was kind of an illusionist of sorts.
Yeah, that is crazy how it was like not just the design, but the actual character was on point too.
Yeah,
that's the crazy part of that story, Dragon. I'm sorry, I was because if it was just the design, I feel like that's one thing, because there's only so many ways you can design something like that. But yeah, the fact that it's basically like the whole character is, that is kind of wild.
The last name, for example. I don't know if that was the sign of them, like halfway through the production, they realized it, then they named him Billings, or if they named him Billings by happenstance. Because I'm saying the whole Frank Robbins thing that happened on Legends of the Dark Knight. I mean, I think what happened is just it filed away in Bruce Timm's brain. He didn't mention it. He's forgot about it. That's what I think happened. Anyway, yes. So the point being, she runs into this not again. It's almost like a Slender Man effect of sorts. Where
a little bit, yeah.
If he were wearing a suit, he'd be a kindly looking guy with a creepy looking face. Anyway, so he basically says like, "What are you? What do you want to take you on an adventure?" And essentially, so he basically takes her on an adventure by he shows her essentially he flashes her, but it's a kid's show. He flashes her the eye. And basically she's on kind of an homage. It's kind of a cross between Raiders and, given how she's dressed, Lara Croft.
Yeah, basically, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so again, it's kind of between. I like how in the editing of the episode we are cutting between reality and fantasy, so the kiddies.
It is a good edit for sure.
Yeah. So Chelsea here, she's again she's going basically through her house and to her father's study, which she thinks is kind of like a Raiders temple with the fertility kind of statue.
I mean, it really is like the way we edit it. It really is kind of it puts you in the head of the person because it's really kind of showing just how transformative the environment is for the person.
Oh yeah. So here's something to file away, Tiki. So she grabs the statue and basically tosses into the water, thinking she's tossing like the cursed item in the volcano or something. And her father comes out there and is like shaking her out of it and says like, "Chelsea, what are you doing? It's a fully original. I paid $80,000 for that." By the way, little expository when you think about it. Just a little bit. And again, he's a rich guy. Rich people are always saying how much they paid for stuff. Anyway, now here's the thing to file away though. Chelsea and her father have a fraught relationship in this episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was actually kind of wondering, Dragon, because it seemed like It kind of seemed like a character beat.
Yeah.
That's good to know. All right.
I can't say I know the big place we're going to hit on this again. I'm trying to remember. We'll find out if we touch on
Uh-huh.
this again. But let's just say Chelsea does have a rebellious side, and I think the way her father raised her has not helped with this. So we're setting up that dad doesn't believe her, and you're setting up there's some issues at home.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Spellbinder, he fished the 80 grand statue out of the water for a payday. So essentially, this is how I like how we see how he operates right out the gate. We see the con here, where again you basically you make people freak out. Basically, not so much that. I mean, basically you hypnotize people into going on a VR quest of sorts, and they're going to end up throwing away the valuable, and he's going to pocket that valuable. There you go. So we introduce it. This episode's all chock full of this stuff with the high school kids. So we meet Terry's friend, Jared Tate.
Okay, I really really like this character a lot, and like right from the get go, we know a lot about him, and I think that's some really solid writing.
I'm gonna tease this for you about Jared.
Okay.
So Jared, I can't say I forget if I think we're gonna see him in like little kind of Easter eggs here and there, but we have a big episode for him down the line. It's a really good episode too.
Nice.
We've already developed him pretty nicely here. We're gonna basically continue this story in a sense with Jared.
I mean, this conversation basically is exposition, but it's very effective exposition. The whole idea of, like his mother is just going through different men, and he doesn't want to get attached to any of them. And, then we find out that he's probably on the more wealthy side. So there's a lot of really nice nuggets there for him to, I'm definitely glad to hear that he's not just a one-off, because I really felt that they really laid the groundwork for a solid character here.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think the implication, just based on the episode when you think about it, is I think he's targeted later because of the stepfather. So I think the idea is his mother's probably cleaned up during the divorces. I don't think he's like wealthy because he's still in high school.
Right.
So I think he's not like one of those private school kind of like, he's not like a super wealthy like Harvard-y kind of kid or anything. So I think that's that's my guess.
I'm just saying, like, now, given the given the marriage,
exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So because of that, for sure, that's absolutely
right.
Definitely. I think before him, he was probably like decently off because of probably I think his mother probably works in a high priced job, and he probably,
sure.
You probably made a lot from the divorce settlements and like the alimonies and stuff. So who knows? So you have to imagine someone's divorced that many times. That's a lot of alimony.
That's true. Maybe that's the mother's scam.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, she seemed like
you need to be looking into this.
I gotta be honest. She seemed like a nice lady, but she did hit Batman quite a number of times.
I mean, her scene is like easily the most horrific scene in the episode, so we'll get there.
But maybe it balances out for her at the end of the day. Who knows? Anyway, so okay, plot, Tiki, plot.
Mm-hmm.
So Terry, he overhears that Chelsea's in trouble from Jared, and then he basically sees. And this is important to you. We've been building up. This is the first. He's Commissioner Barbara Gordon's in the high school.
Gordon has such a damn good moment at the end of the episode, and I fucking love it.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to get to it. We'll get
there.
Seriously, so we've been building.
I mean, dare I say that's like that almost feels like the Great Conroy moment, even though Kevin doesn't speak a damn word.
I know. It's like the thing. I remember Tim Allen always had this hilarious point in Toy Story, in the first Toy Story movie, when he said the scene where Buzz just won't respond to Woody, when Woody's giving this impassioned plea to get Buzz out of his funk after he realizes he's a toy. Buzz doesn't say anything, and he gives an incredibly dramatic performance. And
absolutely.
And Tim Allen points out, like, look at this, is such a great scene, but I'm not saying a word during this scene. Which anyway, so something along those lines. Basically, when the animation, the characterization is so on point, you can kind of get volumes of a role when the character doesn't even speak, and that means that actor's not really getting paid in that moment. Regardless, but seriously, they've been building up Terry meeting officially Barbara Gordon, and we did it in the second episode, and we had Batman at the end of Blackout drop off the ink on ice for Commissioner Gordon. But this is the first time they've inhabited the same space and still have not really talked to each other yet. So we're building it up. We're building it up, Tiki, for the big encounter, official encounter between these two. So point me, he sees Barbara Gordon with a uni, kind of walking in there, talking to Dr. Billings. Essentially, the idea here, long and short of it, is they're looking. Assumedly, Chelsea is like trying to explain ad infinitum to her father, and her father, probably after a lot of begging, told the police what happened. And because he has influence, Barbara Gordon figures, okay, well, we'll go to the high school and see if there's something wrong with the girl, and if not, then we'll look into it. Because might be issues and teenage father stuff and all that sort of stuff. So basically, Billings plays into that here. He throws her under the bus. She's just acting
out. Now, one thing I do want to point out, I don't remember if it came during the first appearance of the Spellbinder or later on, but I do like how we tee up the whole I don't bite.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. No, you're right. So when he meets Chelsea, she's initially like a little eerie about him. Like, oh my God, there's a man in a body stocking. It's like the Green Man, It's like
right,
one of those,
right.
The Green Man, right? The guys who wear the green lycra body suits at the sports games.
Yes.
Who is this Green Man? What is this business?
I didn't know they were just called the Green Men, but yes.
Well, I'm going off. Admittedly, I'm going off of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay, fair enough.
They popularized.
I really should watch It's Always Sunny, especially before the Mario movie.
Yeah, the Green Man existed before It's Always Sunny, but I think they officially called him the Green Man. I think it's what it took off because they have the Green Man that beat up, I think, the Phillies mascot, whoever the big green one with like the horn looking nose. One anyway. So point being, Ira Billings throws Chelsea into the bus as her counselor, saying he's just trying to get Daddy's attention, so on and so forth. And so Terry overhears this, and I love already Barbara. She's taking notice of that McGinnis boy, because she's been in his shoes. Literally, she's probably been Barbara Gordon eavesdropping on stuff that's going on the other side of the wall here. So I think she's kind of recognizing that in the kid, even though she's taking notice.
Sure.
Meanwhile, Wayne Manor. This is kind of nice. It's the first time in a long while we've seen Bruce not in the cave already. He's out of the cave. He's in the house. He's in the library even. I think he's pulling out some books. Is Bruce doing stuff in the middle? It's just kind of nice. He needs to pull out some books now. He's going to get some soup. So Terry tells Bruce about what's going on, and he says, I don't buy what's going on here. I don't buy that she did that. I don't buy something fishy isn't going on here. And Bruce
is too crazy not to be true, which honestly, Dragon, that is some good bullshit radar logic on my end that I use myself.
Too good not to be true.
Or more just like, I feel like, for me, I feel like if the situation is just like really just like, oh my God, like, wow, okay, yeah, there's no way you're making that up. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. It's too specific.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so Bruce's advice, he's also kind of like shoving aside here, saying, look, leave it alone. She's a troubled kid trying to get back at Daddy. Lashing out at Daddy, essentially. Then, of course, Terry comes in. This moment is hysterical, but we have a lot of... We may be lacking specifically in the great Conroy. We have the good Conroy, but we don't necessarily have like a great Conroy. But what we do have...
Well, we have a great Conroy. It's just an unconventional great Conroy.
True. That's what I'm saying. If we count the silent moments, Tiki, we're going to be here forever with the great Conroy.
Of course.
Anyway, so we have this kind of this great moment where Terry makes the barb... Not that barb, makes the other barb. He says, well, yeah, you be the expert in troubled kids. You collect them, right? And just it plays on two levels, because Bruce is looking at him like, oh, you wise guy. He just gives him that glare, as we all know. He gives him that great Bruce Wayne glare. But then also, it's a sore spot knowing what we know about what all these, it's the sadness that all these kids eventually, he basically chased all these kids away, or something terrible happened to these kids because of him. So it's funny, and Terry gives a hilarious like look, ooh, that sort of thing. But still, it's like it hurt Bruce's feelings, and I feel bad for him.
All right, I'm not going to lie. This next guy is kind of like it sort of feels like the filler scene of the episode, where it's like, okay, we have to kind of just continue to establish the villain's MO.
Yeah, we got to establish a pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad. I just think the actual visuals are. I mean, I guess, to be fair, it is pretty intense with the visuals, with the war stuff and having the guy So I don't know, Dragon. First of all, let's set it up. It's a museum, and it's some sort of museum curator or something, right?
Well, it's Mr. Deakins. The Mr. Deakins here is an auction manager. So the idea is that they've inherited like from a royal. Now this is kind of a cute deep cut Easter egg, but it's kind of a retroactive Easter egg because they were not making Justice League by the time they did this. They say Princess Audrey. Now down the line in Justice League, and we talked about this episode. Diana Prince, the Wonder Woman, she befriended Princess Audrey, the Kasnian princess.
Oh, that's funny.
So again, they did not know they were making that episode years back at this point, but it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of funny that retroactively now it's like, oh, it's the Princess of Kasnia, which kind of makes you wonder, would she have become queen by then? Maybe she had a daughter, Audrey II or something. Who cares? Point being, a royal of some variety has auctioned her dresses or clothes off, and basically Mr. Deakins here is tasked with safeguarding them and selling them off to the highest bidder. So, and the gag here being, and there is a speculation. I want to get your opinion on, Mister. Always speculating about the Joker's war record in the Dark Knight. I want to get your take on this.
Okay.
So, I think the gag here is that Mr. Deakins, especially in the '90s, kind of a pansy. We establish him as very much like, oh, I can't bear to leave the dresses alone at night, and the guards are kind of patronizing him. And after the effect takes hold on him, he's hallucinating Vietnam. Now, Spellbinder has ample time to scat out some of these targets because he does talk to the kids. We're going to find out later. Now, do you think this guy actually was in Vietnam, or do you think he just gave him a very vivid experience of being in Vietnam?
Okay, that's interesting. The way I read it definitely felt like a flashback, right? It definitely felt like something personal.
It's very vivid. Yes, he's saying Louis,
especially like the guy that he's trying to save. You know what I mean? That really does feel like it's pulled from a specific memory. But that's how I read it.
But here's kind of a cool thing. I could be reading into this, mind you, but if you look at the guy that he's shouldering around, he looks a little bit like the guard that he was talking to before the scene. So I think he's kind of like taking like the things from everyday life and putting them in the dream.
Oh, that's interesting.
I could be wrong. It could just be a similar looking guy. It's a generic design, generic guard design. So who knows? But point being, I think that is the question. Like, did Billingsley, because as we established later on during an action sequence, he can just give people random thoughts and memories. Like Chelsea wasn't necessarily, it could have been like something like she's looking for adventure. I'm going to give her a little adventure fantasy. This guy, he's a war vet. I'm going to give him PTSD, and that'll play into what I want here. So it's unclear, it's ambiguous, but I was just wondering if maybe you thought, so you're erring on the side that this guy probably was in combat. And
that was how I read it. Yes.
I like that.
But I mean, it sounds like you've thought about it a lot more than I have, though.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, with a lot of things, you can kind of see it both ways. But I think in this case, I think it's kind of, what do you think plays better? If the idea is this guy was in combat and he was traumatized, he kind of moved past it and he became an auctioneer, like a really kind of real dainty auctioneer.
I mean, it probably does play better if it's just if the fantasy is that vivid.
Yeah, I mean that's
that it can give you real world PTSD. You know what I mean?
The thing. I think that's kind of headier, don't you think?
No, I mean, like I said, I feel like I had a very surface level read on it. So
okay. So point being, this guy, they've never looked at this guy any other way before. Now he's he took both the guards out because they never guard against this guy who's all like, oh, I hope the dresses are going to be okay.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, so the police are on the scene there, and they're like, and he really did damage to these guys. One of them's going to the hospital. One of them's going to the ambulance. Okay, so Batman's on the scene, and he's investigating. We pretty much have almost an unofficial hostage situation going on here. He's basically taking a dress, and he's throwing it around like it's a body, thinking it's his brother in arms, Louis here. It's like, don't worry, Louis, I'll get you out of here. And he goes for a grenade, which is actually a coffee mug, and he tosses it, and he basically heads to the roof. And on the roof, you have the again a very Apocalypse Now looking Vietnam kind of set piece. We have Spellbinder as the medevac showing up. And let's talk about Spellbinder's ride here for a second. What do you think of this puppy?
I mean, I really like it. It seems very, it feels like Disney ride vehicle-esque almost in a weird kind of way.
I mean, I really do like the design, but part of me thinks it was purely designed so we'd have like the bug set piece later. I think that's why it looks the way it does.
That makes sense.
But
Yeah.
overall, I think it does look
Well, I
really
mean, I
cool.
like that the shape actually could it's kind of like a a flexible shape that you can kind of mold into a bunch of different things, and that's probably like where they were coming from with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good and unusual shape too. It has like little
Yeah.
anyway. So, and point being, so Batman's on the scene. He's basically unloaded the dress on the thing, and then Spellbinder gives him a gun, an actual
Okay, yeah,
blast
I want to
fuse.
talk about this dragon because this really did feel like a going over the censorship thing. Like Batman is straight up being shot at, not with a laser gun, not with there's no zombies, there's no robots. This is a man firing a gun with bullets at another man dragon.
Do you want to know how they got around it?
Yes, I would love to know.
The color of the bullets.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Technically, it counts as an energy weapon.
Oh my god.
It's that, and the design of the gun is still futuristic. It's not a handgun.
That's fucking nuts.
Right? I mean, well, Tiki,
That's
it's also
nuts.
Well, Tiki also, if it makes you
I mean,
feel
I'm looking at the color of the bullets, and it's like it very much could just be like the way I read it in the moment was very much not like, oh, there he's blasting laser fire. No, it's like, okay, like the shots of the gun are coming out like so fast that it's like almost like, kind of like not seeing the bullets because they're breaking the speed of, the speed of sight kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Taking two other things to bear in mind. One, unlike Spider-Man the animated series, even the lasers in Batman Beyond do look like they would actually potentially kill someone. That's the thing. It'd be more of like the heaviest impact without actually going through and through somebody is pretty much the density of those laser weapons in the future. They're pretty much just as anyway. That's one thing already. Secondly, I mean, on Kids WB, they got away with handgun use, man, on a kids show on Saturday morning. Like they were allowed to get away with a lot more than Batman the animated series, but they're like little get arounds for the rules. So even then, I mean, technically, they've gotten away with worse on New Adventures with the guns. So I mean,
right.
Joker in the Christmas
episode. I mean, I'm not complaining, Dragon. Just to be clear, I'm not complaining. It was just kind of like, oh wow, okay, we're going there.
I'm just telling you how crazy Kids WB was compared to Fox. Believe it or not, where Kids WB is like, hey, for the Christmas episode, we're gonna have Joker with a handgun shoot Batman in the arm and actually say that he got shot in the arm. So long as we don't show the blood, we can shoot him. So yeah. Anyway, so he's shooting at Batman as a Spellbinder gets away, and Batman he basically, I love this. This did take me back to the first appearance of Scarecrow from Batman the animated series with Nothing to Fear, where Batman was like the scene that Nolan borrowed from with Batman Begins. The whole crowd going after Batman, attacking him, but he doesn't.
Sure.
So Batman, I don't want to hurt you in that butt, and he kicks him over. Kicks him over, and the guy snaps out of it. He says, "Who was it? I don't know."
Right.
So vindication for Terry, as he tells Bruce he told him so. Pretty much.
Okay, Dragon, I have a big fucking question. All right.
All right, what do you got?
Who the hell is DG?
Wait, it's not a real question, is it?
No, that's a real question.
Oh, Tiki, come on, man.
Who is DG? Tell me. I've been racking my brain.
If I tell you, you're going to feel incredibly stupid. Are you
I
sure?
know I'm going to feel incredibly stupid. Just tell me.
I mean really stupid. Are you sure?
Tell me.
Dick Grayson.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
How did I not think of that?
Yeah. That's my question. That's really my question.
I don't know.
How did you not think of that?
Honestly, I was thinking Jason Todd. Because Jason Todd is more fresh in my mind.
Well, again, Tiki, Jason Todd, not even in the animated stuff until that comic.
I know. Okay, I'm dumb. I'm fucking dumb.
Okay, anyway. So, let's see.
But yeah, I do like the idea, that Terry is borrowing his old threads. Dick Grayson's old threads, yes.
Yeah. And I love, but again, it's that look that Bruce gives him, like, just there's a little sorrow in there, like, he's borrowing, like, who's DG? Just, oh, God. Just, yeah.
I wonder, don't confirm this, but I wonder if we ever see DG in Batman Beyond.
Tiki, who's DG, though?
Just a
Anyway.
thought, that would be interesting to see a middle-aged DG.
Okay. So point being, he's tasked with finding out who Spellbinder is, and he says, well, it's going to have to wait until after his wedding reception. So he borrows a different suit, which is the Dick Grayson tuxedo, which he has no idea who DG is, much like my associate here, apparently. And we hit the wedding reception.
All right. So Jared is a lot more cheerful now that the guy has bought him a car.
Yeah, and it's apparently fine.
Chicks dig the car.
They do. And speaking of Batman pools here, yeah, so Mr. and Mrs. Tate. So Mr. Tate, who again will be back in a very substantial, he'll actually be the lead of that episode too, by the way, Mr. Tate.
Cool.
So
I like his design.
Yeah, he's got a great, I know, right? He's got a great design.
Yeah.
Also, he's got a good voice actor who we've heard before in Batman the Animated Series, way back in Batman the Animated Series. In fact, one of your go-to episodes. This is the reference, actually.
Yeah.
So he played Riley in. So the actor's name is Dorian Harewood, and he played Riley from The Forgotten. He was the black homeless friend.
Oh my god! I was gonna say like he did play Boss Biggs. Did he?
No. He was victimized by Boss Biggs. So he was
All right.
But yeah, so this is good.
Yeah, I don't know why that particular episode. It's just because Boss Biggs is just such a memorably forgettable villain.
But you know what, man?
Which is an oxymoron in itself.
You gotta admit, Tiki, you go back to The Forgotten, though, aside from the laughs at Boss Biggs, this actor gave a really good performance as Riley when he was like in the hot box with Bruce Wayne. They were kind of talking.
Well, let me know when the actor does pop up, and I will make a point to go back to it.
Right. Well, again, he's the father, and he'll make a reference when she's starting to freak out. But yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying. Let me, once we get to the episode where he's a big focal point.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure. Okay. Anyway, so appointment. They tied the knot, and they're doing a little reception walk and everything. They're being announced as the couple, and then now here's a fun Easter egg from what the background I was giving you earlier. So they used the music from Bruce Wayne's wedding from Chemistry in this when they're walking down doing the reception thing. They're playing the score from Bruce Wayne's wedding.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Because they had it on stock, It's like, well, we had it in stock. Let's use it.
But you know what's not fun, Dragon?
Bugs.
Oh my god, I seriously hate this segment. I hate everything. Like it's very effective. Don't get me wrong, but from like a pure phobia point of view, this whole thing is just oh god.
So we set up that the stepfather was loaded as all these wedding pictures are being taken, and they have a bunch of floating cameras of the future, which you think would be very handy in a paparazzo's wet dream. But in reality, this is going to be a recipe for disaster if you're hallucinating. So we have the bug vision that occurs after one of the cameras.
For me, by far the worst one, Dragon. By far the worst hallucination was the dead body with all the fucking like ladybug style bugs pouring out of the mouth.
Right.
And that turns out to be the flower girl.
Yeah.
I mean, are you fucking kidding me? That's such a crazy juxtaposition of like fucked up imagery and pure innocence.
Well, I don't know how dead it looked. I didn't really read it as dead.
He looked pretty dead to me, Dragon. Go back and look at it.
I mean, what you're saying is it looks like a human body, right? Or is it just looks
No,
like
I'm saying it looks like a dead, like, bug creature's body.
Oh, okay.
With fucking ladybug style things pouring out of its mouth.
Well, yeah, it looks like a bug thing. I didn't. Okay, well, that's fine. I thought it was more of like I thought you meant for a moment. It sounded like you were talking about like a human body, which I didn't get at all.
No, you know what I mean.
Well,
like
now
one
I
of
know
those
what you mean.
humanoid bug things that are in this scene.
Right. So this is funny too because we had that episode Critters. So we have a bunch of like which court had the giant praying mantises. So we have a lot of like kind of like
oh god, I didn't like those either.
We have a lot of like otherworldly bug looking things in this episode. So it's all they're pulling a lot from the new Batman Adventures on this. It feels like. So
I do like the Batman moment where Terry just spots the spellbinder just in the crowd. That's a very classic Batman moment for me.
So then, so he's running out. So basically, Mrs. Tate, she's freaking out. She throws the flowers at her new husband, and I sent the wrong message to everyone at first, and then she's just freaking out, and running and looking at the flower girl, like, oh god, and just running. And then we have like also really cool the shots of the eyes because every time we focus on like the people, like we see Chelsea's eye earlier in the episode. and we transition from the big floating eyeball to her blue eye. And then we have Mrs. Tate's eyes, and we're showing like the shine and the reflection in the eyes, which also kind of signifies under the control of the eye thing. So it kind of lightens the eye. So it's a really cool little,
Sure,
nice.
sure.
Anyway, so Terry suits up, and I love this detail. We set up, he runs out to his motorcycle that he travels on.
I just noticed that, yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of nice. Like Terry usually either the suit's in the backpack or this. So, but Terry has like ways of bringing the suit with him, so it's kind of nice. Okay, so then we have they have this gag. A lot of people love this line from the episode where he's just his way of signaling Bruce Wayne on the comm system is like, "Hey Wayne, you alive?" Very funny. Very funny. So let's see. So Batman's on the scene, and he's she's seemingly she's about to like jump off the bridge and everything, and Batman saves her. He's like grabbing her by the long trail dress, and she's freaking out by, oh my god, what is this flying bug creature that's ensnared me? It's going to eat me. So she's like, ripping the dress apart so she can fall to her death essentially. Then Spellbinder attacks with a very wasp-looking hovering device, as we've established for his vehicle, and does not help the hallucinating woman who is now seeing two bugs having like a Godzilla fight. Having like a Skull Island looking fight, with like basically a flying scorpion, which that's terrifying. The idea of a flying scorpion really is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So they're having a bug fight. Again, she rips off like all of her jewelry and everything, thinking it's like bugs like on her and like climbing onto her ears and her neck and everything.
I hate the image of her caught in the giant web and trying to get out of the web, even though getting out of the web is going to spell falling to her death. Dragon, that is such a fucked up visual for me. Again, like this whole sequence just gets under my skin with the phobia.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I will say that, like, probably my all-time biggest fear as far as, like, death goes, and this is, like, never actually going to happen, thank God, because the real world just doesn't work like this.
Not yet.
But, like, being eaten alive by a giant spider while trapped in its web. Holy shit, Dragon. That is like my ultimate nightmare fuel.
Really?
Ultimate nightmare fuel.
Eaten by the giant spider.
Eaten by a giant spider when you're trapped in the web.
Is it just when you're trapped in the web, or is eaten by the spider, period?
Well, I mean, being eaten by the spider wouldn't be pleasant, of course, but, like, I have a big phobia of things with multiple legs. I don't like things that are too big. And then I don't like the powerlessness of just having that happen and being caught in the web and not being able to do anything about it.
Gotcha.
Anyways, this is Tiki's therapy hour, like always.
So you want to play my therapist? Anyway, so the train's coming. Big old train that she hallucinates as a giant bug coming for, and then she jumps off the bridge.
The train very much looks like kind of like a Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind style creature.
Pretty much, yeah. So anyway, so Batman saves Mrs. Tate, but of course she sees like a giant flying bug coming after her, and she's like punching the heck out of him. I'll admit, this is a little telling though. When the bug vision goes away for a second, she sees this Batman, still punches him, still elbows him in the face. I'm just saying.
I read that she punches him out of shock at that.
No, point. Yeah, out of shock, but I'm just saying, just, I wonder if there's like a moment of like, oh man, I really should have apologized for hitting him. Anyway, so Batman tells him to put on his vid link, so he puts on the vid link as he pursues Spellbinder, and then this I'm surprised didn't freak you out more. I gotta be honest. I forgot. I knew he had a plant thing. I forgot about he had like a giant bug thing. So Spellbinder, this is really cool. It has like the built-in eye within the hand, so he flashes the light right at Batman's face as he does like that awesome, like I love that. By the way, I love the impact of when Batman flies up, he glides onto the vehicle, and he's like, shit, I love his posing. It's very Spider-Man-like. I don't know. It looks really good. So anyway, so he turns around there, and then he flashes the eye in the hand at him, and Terry is given a very relaxing image. Something like basically Terry is envisioning cliff diving right now.
The only reason this didn't freak me out at all is because it is just super relaxing. Like, even though it's clearly dangerous, it's like,
no, I don't mean that.
Nice.
Well, I don't mean that part. I mean the horrible thing that happens when he realizes it at the last second.
Oh, well, yeah, you mean the destruction of the suit? Like, yeah, we'll get
Yeah.
into that. I have things to say about that for sure.
So almost, so basically, he goes cliff diving here, and he commits almost suicide when he just jumps there. And then we have Bruce on the other end here, going, going. Let's see, McGinnis, what are you doing? Terry, wake up! And it's really intimidating because you see that like Bruce is watching this kid potentially plummet.
Right, right.
Imagine the nightmares Bruce Wayne's going to have this if this kid splats while it's in the POV of the camera. It's like something you'd see on the
Oh my God,
boys.
yeah.
Dear God. So anyway, so again, McGinnis, what are you doing? Terry, wake up! And then Terry wakes up the very last second. We have this very realistically animated crash, and I love how messy this is. Where he goes down the thrusters of the suit, and the wings come out the very last second, and it causes like cars to tip over and everything. And you see blasting like this bus stop, and like you feel we've seen a lot of painful things happen to Terry in this show. This one hurt the most so far to me.
Yeah, you definitely feel the impact for sure. I think crashing into the bus stop is a good kind of like thing to throw in there just to make sure you really get the idea that it's hurting, and then also just the way that the suit is messed up and all the exposed wiring and everything is really cool.
Yeah, like the internal circuitry of the suit is all like you see. Basically, it looks like a series of red veins on the black suit. So it just basically the skin of the suit is ripped off. It's very heady. It's very trippy
Uh-huh.
seeing the underpinnings of the suit. So it looks painful just in every sense of the word. Now, also, we can now see Tiki. A while back, Tiki posed us the challenge of keeping track, of doing a tally of all the McGinnis, get out of here kind of moments of old Bruce Wayne basically calling to Terry and giving him a command as he tends to do so. So far, officially, not just Bruce yelling at him, but officially, we've had 3 of these so far. We had one in Blackout, we had one in Meltdown, we had one in Heroes, and now we have one with him saying, McGinnis, what are you doing?
Yes, yes.
So we're now at 4. No, we're not counting Terry Wake. Well, do we want to count Terry Wake Up or just the one?
Well, I mean, I think just because it happens one right after the other, we should probably just count it as one.
We're just gonna count it as one, folks. Yeah. We're blazing this trail. Okay, so.
Oh, dude, we're totally flying by the seat of our pants as we go through the actual semantics of that. Yes.
All right. So, point being, after the horrifying last-minute crash in which we see the inner workings of the suit, good transition to, and he's like feeling the injured arm, to him bandaging up the injured arm in the back cave. Good transitions. So Bruce puts the vid link on the screen. He basically reverse engineered basically what was projected onto Terry's suit and what he was seeing. And we see the cliff diving thing, and Terry's like, I'm telling you, I could smell the water, which is very eerie. Like how realistic that simulation.
You know what I like about that line?
What?
Is that Disney is very famous for their water having a distinct smell.
Really, the water too?
Pirates of the Caribbean specifically.
Do they add brine?
No, Dragon. It's not brine. It's more so like kind of like a pleasant kind of like chlorine smell almost. It's hard to describe.
Right. Let's see him turn that into a cologne.
People have.
Get out of here. Really?
I mean, not colognes, but the Magic Candle Company, they definitely use that scent.
Crazy. So then we have Bruce delivering on one of the big lines of the episode here, saying, with such advanced technology and knowledge of the human psyche, this man should be considered very deadly. Bum, bum, bum.
Yep.
All right. So Terry is called into Ira Billings' office, the school therapist, school psychologist. And basically, he knows that Terry's been going through a lot with the passing of his father. It's been a few months in the Batman Beyond timeline at this point, and of course he says, "I don't bite," which clue, big stinking clue.
Oh yeah,
it's him. So he points out as Terry's kind of walked into.
And
his
then
office,
if that didn't clue in the people who weren't paying enough attention, he inquires about like, I hear you're working for a billionaire. That must be super exciting.
And his name's DG apparently. Yes, so he's working for an actual billionaire. Very exciting. He's kind of teeing that up for the kids, which then transitions us into our next scene. Bruce Wayne He's looking for the connection between the targets and the victims so far, and then there's an intruder alert. No, it doesn't go intruder alert, shut up. No, it's intruder alert. He goes up to the Wayne Manor portion of the cave, and he finds a eerily happy and smiley Terry McGinnis. And Tiki, why don't you tell us all, what is Terry hallucinating?
He's hallucinating being on soup. I know I do.
Supermarket Spree?
No, Supermarket Sweep, the actual game show.
Well, I know that they're literally doing an homage to it. They couldn't use Sweep, but yes,
of course.
Spree, yeah. That's the thing. So, you remember, basically, it feels like it's mostly Supermarket Sweep, but it feels like a combination of that. And I guess just for my nostalgia, purely like the Toys R Us thing. You remember that thing?
Yes, that Nickelodeon would do. Yeah.
Yeah, Nickelodeon would do. They give you you can basically go through Toys R Us and put everything you can in a cart and you get to keep it.
That was the dream, man. That was the
right?
dream back in the day.
I mean, how envious were you seeing that happen? Like, God, I wish.
Oh my God!
Because let me guess, you had the same thing where it's like, man, if it were me, I have a game plan. I go to the specific aisle I want to go to.
I think for me at the time, it was probably just like all Lego.
Me, it probably would have been all the Dragon Ball stuff.
Which that probably would have been a smart investment, come to think of it.
Yeah, no, for sure, yeah. Anyway, so
I remember when I was a kid, I really wanted that Lego castle, and I never got it, but I wanted it so fucking bad.
So, given your love of game shows and reality shows, I figured you get a kick out of this.
Oh, I very much got a kick out of it, yeah. And like you said, I feel like the fact that you see Terry smiling in the real world before you even see what the fantasy is, that kind of just makes it extra silly and surreal.
Yeah, it's the fact that Terry's having I like that these fantasies for Terry, as Lucas Green established in the comments, these are not scary things. Terry's having a relaxing cliff dive right now, and Terry's on a game show, and he's having a darn good
to be
time.
fair, like I said, the insect one is decidedly just fucking horrific.
Oh, yeah.
Like, probably more horrific than anything that we actually saw from the Scarecrow.
Well, it can't be all apple pie. Plus, she needs to rip off. Honestly, the primary reason it needs to be scary, she needs to rip off those jewels. I mean, why else rip off all the jewelry? It's got to be something to scare her away from that. Either that or a mugger. So one of the two. Anyway, so Point Terry's like throwing everything, all these store supplies into a shopping cart, and he is he's basically. I love that the fantasy is programmed so he would not pick up the books. He just throw the books around and he would get only the valuables. He basically raids the trophy shelf that we've established way back in the Tim Drake episode from New Batman Adventures in the Sins of the Father episode. He saw that little trophy display area with all like the humanitarian awards Bruce Wayne's gotten over the years, and probably some stuff from Dick Grayson over the years too. DG Tiki, and shoves it all in the bag and everything. So then Bruce is trying to snap out of him. What does Terry imagine Bruce Wayne as, Tiki?
Like just an old lady, right?
Yeah, just a large woman, just like fighting with him over like a box of soap. It looks like.
I love that.
It would have been funnier if we saw her talk like Bruce Wayne, though.
Oh my God,
we didn't do that. Like, Terry, snap out of it. And of course, he's just going around. And then it gets a little dangerous though. Terry, he throws Bruce across the room there and just shoves him back. And he's going to get more. And then Bruce and I love that when Intruder Alert was on the display screen in the Batcave, he went for the cane, man. Bruce Wayne and that cane. He's going to knock the sucker out. So went up there and he basically javelined that sucker right into the fireplace. So Terry tripped and he slapped him to snap him out of it. And then this to me is possibly, if not the great counter, is a good counter in terms of the spoken lines of the episode. I love Bruce Wayne saying, "Telling tales in school, were we?"
Yeah, that's a good Conroy moment. It's a good one.
There you go. It's good. It's got a nice Bruce kind of taking the absurdity of the moment and kind of spinning it like telling tales in school, were we? I just loves the satisfaction of Bruce. It's kind of like Bruce's as the world's greatest detective. This is kind of his Adrian Monk moment, if you will. This is sort of the moment of just like, Monk, do you know who the guy is? And then he smiles in commercial break, and then when we come back from the commercial break, he does the wrap up, and he's basically
I could see that.
The Scooby Doo wrap up. Essentially, is what happens. It's like, I found the missing clue. That's essentially what the tone of that line. So we figure out that it's Billingsley, find out that's Ira Billings. And he's basically used the kids as a way of finding out which kids had wealthy connections that he could basically use as a way of robbing them using the hallucinatory hypnotizing technology. And again, Terry's really I love how violated Terry feels by this too, because you used and manipulated kids that really needed your help. That really hurts him.
Sure.
So he then realizes, so that means he's waiting outside the gates for us right now. You know how I hate to disappoint. So Batman attacks, and he shows up with like that quippy James Bond line he always likes to do, like expecting someone. Begin to some fighty fight. He tosses a short-circuiting batarang at him. Very nice. Downs his ride, and then we go into the woods. Now, Tiki, I'm sure how do you feel about this climax?
I like it. Like, it's not as horrific as the bugs, obviously, but it's still really cool. Like, Dragon, my first thought when I saw it was like, wow, this actually kind of like almost qualifies this episode to be talked about in Haunted Holiday Hijinks between the bugs and the zombies.
Yeah, almost. So, yeah, so Terry is...
I would actually say like a fun podcast to do once we end out Batman Beyond would be just like the top 10 disturbing or scary moments in Batman Beyond.
I mean, that might be good. Who knows? Maybe.
Anyways.
So here's actually some of the kind of track with Terry's progression since we're in season 1, Tiki. So we do a classic Batman scene here, only Terry's not really good at it yet. Batman moralizes to the villain, kind of like what Batman always did when he tried to reach the villain, which I know admittedly never always worked, but at least, you saw him get beneath, kind of crack the villain, like we saw a Baby Doll. And
we all know that's Steven Universe's superpower.
Sure. But seriously, we see the whole, like, he's, it's, Batman kind of, it's a familiar setup to Batman the Animated Series, where in the third act, he basically has a heart-to-heart with the bad guy, and usually it'll kind of say something important about the episode, or basically at least kind of reach him for a moment, and then ultimately not go well. So here he says, like, you were supposed to help kids. Oh, you want to be my therapist, eh? And then it's a little setup to, I like to think, in the arc of things, it's a little setup to Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, in which Terry gets really good at this sort of thing, where he actually is able to get under the villain's skin with this sort of thing. But right now, he's kind of, it's kind of, this is like, that's then, this is now.
Sure.
So, of course, he looks into the eye and he sees zombies! A horde of zombies!
And they're pretty cool designs, too.
That is true, yes. So Bruce is on the radio, and
I really like how the fight scene, it's basically focused on what is real and what is not real. Focus on my voice, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Bruce on the radio saying, "Put on your vid link and look around so I can help you." So he's basically. Also, we learn why Billings did it. Billings basically says, like, for years I helped those kids face their demons, which again, parables here, like Terry is facing. I think he made the zombies with a point here of just like, I fought my demons, now you fight some demons, man. So again, I think that's the logic.
Jared Leto comes out as Mephisto.
You really want Leto as Mephisto? Anyway. So.
Just saying, Disney cast him in the Haunted Mansion. They're not above working with him.
Right. Anyway.
There was so much Jared Leto hate in that Haunted Mansion trailer talk that I did, Dragon. It was delightful.
Sure. So, let's see. His point being, I helped fight the demons of those kids while their parents paid their garbage men more than me.
Now that I can absolutely that is very much like a Michael Keaton Vulture kind of motivation, and I really like that.
Yeah. He's basically taking what he thinks he's earned. So I mean, I like that. Again, it's diluted as all get out, but I like there's a logic to why he's doing this. It's a very greedy logic, but tracks. It's the underpaid teacher's problem. So basically, he's beating up a distracted Batman. Of course, Bruce says, "Look around so I can see. Whatever you're seeing isn't real." And again, Conroy over over the comms here, very good. And again, like he's doing his version of the impassioned plea, which is falling on deaf ears for the therapist here, but actually doing good for Terry right now. So he doesn't look around, then he's like instructing, like, block now, as he sees like he's about to attack, and he blocks. And this is really cool, just kind of like almost blindfolded, kind of like a little instruction here. He's like, he tells him to block, and then he tells him to look out, and then unfortunately gets hit by a rock right to the. He threw a rock at him. Wrong villain. He threw a rock at him and basically clocked him in the head, so the vidling signal's breaking up, which is building some tension for the next bit here. So McGinnis report. I don't think counts for our thing.
I don't know. It doesn't count because it's not necessarily like a command.
Exactly, just asking the report in. So
yeah.
They chase. So he chases him to the cliffside, and the signal breaks up, building some tension here. And then of course he sees like no. Then reality snaps back into place. McGinnis, stop! Well, he doesn't say. I'm sorry. He doesn't say McGinnis. He just says stop now. I want to be very specific with that wording. Like stop now. So Spellbinder is about to hit him with another rock. But then he snaps a little twig behind him, so he dodges it, and then Billings goes over the side, and he grabs him, he crushes the wrist-mounted eye on the device, so he can't hit him again. And so he unmasks Billings, and the Billings is done. Then we have our big scene.
Yep.
This is technically the first time, he's not in the suit, mind you, but this is technically the first modern Batman Gordon scene.
Sure, of course.
It's the first Terry Barbara scene here where we have.
What I like about it too is it's super quick, Dragon. We don't linger on it. Like it's it's paced so well. It's just like it's basically just about a minute long, and we get everything that we need to know.
We do. So Terry's like giving her the BS story of like, yeah, Batman tied him up and then he left. Yeah.
And I just love Drake. I'm sorry, we have to like officially call this the Great Conway moment. I think because, like, yeah, he doesn't have any lines, but like, there is so much unspoken tension between these two just from the looks.
Yep. That thing we've been slowly.
He just gives it a look like I know exactly what you're doing, and he's like, "Yeah, I know you know exactly what I'm doing."
Well, that's the thing. This is great. Where they've had a conversation on the phone once so far. So we've been building up their interaction as well. Again,
of course. Which Dragon, I'm very interested to see her and Terry interact.
Mm-hmm.
Not so excited to see her and Bruce one-on-one interact.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Tiki, if memory serves, I think this possibly. I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say there's got to be at least one other scene where they're gonna physically be in person again. But until Return of the Joker, this might be it.
Okay.
I mean, they have conversations, but usually like a phone conversation. I don't think they really. That's because the damage is so. The damage the relationship is so fraught between these two in terms of how damage the damage that's been inflicted upon them. It sounds like they really don't like being in the same space with each other. Really.
Sure.
So, if memory serves, they probably don't share.
I just don't want them to dwell on you know what.
Well, trust me, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Regardless, there is an unspoken even though they've had a conversation with her saying, "I hear you've taken on," basically saying, "I know there's a new Batman going around." She hasn't met him, and Bruce didn't tell her who the kid is, but this is her officially putting two and two together. But what I love about this scene is that it is an homage to the classic Batman Gordon scenes, where it's the idea that Commissioner Gordon likely knew, or at the very least, it was that thing where 10 minutes is all it would take him to figure out that Batman is Bruce Wayne, if he really wanted to find out.
Sure.
In this case, it's like, okay, officially, I don't want to know.
Exactly.
Know.
Yeah.
I don't want to officially say the words unless it's absolutely
like I said,
necessary.
The fact that they don't dwell on it, the fact that it's such a quick exchange, I think makes it all the more impactful.
I love her lines to Terry, though, and even Terry doesn't really. He just nods.
No, he does not understand the impact of this at all. He's totally in the dark.
Well, no. I mean, when she says, "So you're Mr. Wayne's new assistant," and he just kind of like nods, and then he says, and then this line's what got me in my feels, man. Where she says, "Your father was Warren McGinnis," and he just nods, and that's like all she needs to know. That's like she knows this is why he's Batman.
Yeah.
That's all she needs to know, and it's so serendipitous because had he been able to go to Barbara Gordon in the first place, he never would have put on that suit. Had Warren Derek Powers not stopped him on the way of going to the police station,
Uh-huh.
their lives would have been very different. Stay out of trouble, kid. And then Barbara, she walks away, and literally with the way we frame this shot, after that look that's exchanged between her and Bruce Wayne, she walks away, and we see her. We frame it so she's walking away from her past. She is walking away from Wayne Manor. It's like, I don't want to be in this world again. Walks right out of the episode.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, we have some comments we should read before we wrap this up.
We do. He says, let's see, Lucas Green says, one wonders why he goes for these token school links when he could use his technology for blight or against some other big face, why these little people wasted potential for his gimmick.
Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because he has
Probably because blight is like, if you went after him directly, it'd be like too high profile.
Well, sure, it's too high profile, but I think also it's the simplicity of it's a built-in operation where he works at the school, and all the clients come to him, and that's the thing. If he knows these kids' problems, he knows they have connections to money and power. Which, I mean, in Gotham, it sounds like in the future it's kind of a systemic thing of potentially corruption and stuff. Like, I'm not saying all these kids are corrupt or anything, or their parents are corrupt. I'm just saying the fact that Gotham, as we've established with so many Bruce Wayne stories, there is kind of like a built-in kind of generational wealth that's at play, and you have a lot of people like Bunny Vreeland and such. And I don't know, it sounds like look at Nelson Nash, for example. Nelson Nash has a really nice car. He comes from money. There are a lot of people that come from money, or at least people that work hard and have their ties to business and or a Wayne Powers or some affiliate of Wayne Powers. So I think there's a lot of big business in town. So these kids have connects or have parents that come from money. So I think it's almost like Jimmy McGill or Gene, if you will. Like the cash and the scams are flowing into him.
Sure.
So why go elsewhere?
Okay, Koski, he's popping up right at the end here. He says, put a knife in Spellbinder's hand and we'll have a sick slasher villain. Indeed.
Got you there. Yeah.
Lucas Green, you don't do therapy for the paycheck. You do it to help others who desperately need closure.
Which is why he's a terrible therapist.
Yeah. You would think that's why most therapists will be in it.
Yeah.
Koski again. I know you know that I know that you know that I know.
You know.
And finally, Lucas saying, really, Barbara wanted something he didn't. He didn't want to let his cape and cowl go at the time. I assume that's referring to like the relationship and why they had a fallout.
Yeah, well, we'll get into the specifics when we have that conversation. I think it's what Lucas is alluding to, but yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, final thoughts, Dragon. Like I said, this isn't the strongest episode, but I really like the gimmick a lot, and I think the animation and the creativity on display really makes this. It's at the very least in the upper half of the episodes that we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I like this episode. I do question though, and this is another thing I meant to mention earlier when we did the reveal of Ira Billings, but so. The mysteries in season 1 of Batman Beyond, they are, I don't think they're as, I'm going to reevaluate Batman Beyond. It's going to be interesting to see how well the mysteries hold up, because a lot of them, some of them are telegraphed because of the runtime.
Yeah, this one was pretty obvious.
Because you got to remember too, it's like season 1 of Batman Beyond, again, we're kind of really just like, the villains ultimately will not be one-offs, because if I recall, all the major villains appear at least 2 to 3 times. Mainly 3. I think there's only one villain who appears 2 times. The rest of them basically appear 3 times total. So, the major ones. So, based on that, like, at the time they're working on these in the first season, they don't know if they're going to come back. So, they're basically doing these as one-off. So, I think because of that, there was like a little bit of like, maybe we're not going to do like a huge build up on the mystery. So it's pretty much like, there's got to be a line of like how clever do we get with the mysteries, and because of that, there's only they don't have time for red herrings, and I think that kind of shows itself. But here's the thing I meant to bring up is the fact that this is the second time in a row technically, and they were aware of this in the first season, which is why they endeavored to kind of not do this all the time. There are a lot of villains that happen to be at the high school.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I think they break themselves of this habit after this episode. We're gonna have one more episode where we have a high school based villain, but it was definitely a concern that they were. I mean, literally
it's kind of like all of Spider-Man's villains coming out of Oscorp.
Exactly. So yet again, this is them like first season, like they have no Bible on the series. They're just flying by the seat of their pants, and oddly, compared to Batman the Animated Series, the production order, I think, is essentially how these things aired. I could be wrong. But let's just say it feels like, I don't know if it was a case of they did not know if the airing order was going to be out of order or not, but I don't think, it sounds to me they would not have intended, at least with the benefit of hindsight, they would not have planned, like, there's a high school villain and there's another high school based villain. So, but overall, it's a good episode. I really do like the visual way in which we capture the villain and our climax. I find to be really good. So it's a good heady episode, and I think a good send up to Scarecrow without being Scarecrow ripoff. So yeah.
All right, we'll take us out, Dragon. Cue up the teaser.
Also, we want to thank.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Koski and Lucas Green for coming in on the comments. Absolutely.
All right. Black-hearted revenge. A creepy love connection. More anime nightmare fuel. Can the Batman face down his first real supervillain? Will Bruce Wayne save his bacon again? Tune in next time to find out. Same animated bat time, same animated bat place.
On the next visit to Batcave Beyond with Disappearing Ink.
Who's DG?
Who's DG?